So we are back with the famous, the great, the not coming out of Ohio State University.
Soon to be Hall of Famer.
Anquan Boldin. So listen, Anquan, we, the first half, we really just talked about a lot of football and a lot of some personal stuff. And it was a really great conversation, very insightful. I didn't even think you had that. I know you were quick and fast, but I didn't think you had that level of quickness to actually catch a rabbit. And you caught quite a few of them, so I'm like really, really impressed with that, right? But what I'm most impressed about is what we're about to talk about now. I remember there was a time during like the Black Lives Matter movement. Had this one lady, I think she was a host, that said that athletes need to just shut up. Actually, she was referring to LeBron, saying he needed to shut up and dribble. But basically what she was trying to say is that athletes need to just shut up and play sports and not get involved in social justice or advocacy work, right?
Like people don't have lives, people don't have life experiences, and that's crazy.
And so I want to just get right to it, Anquan. What brought you to this work?
Right. So, and you talk about the lady who said that about LeBron, right? And actually, that's not true in the way that she thinks, because people only tell athletes to shut up and dribble, or to stay out of politics or whatever it is, only when they don't agree with them. Because when you have an athlete that agrees with, a politician or, an elected official or whatever it is, you'll always find them trying to have that athlete or actor or entertainer endorse them. So it's not that they don't want athletes to engage in the things that they really care about. It's just, when you don't agree with me, then stay out of it. But if you're on my side, I can use you, to kind of further my messaging. So, I don't agree with her take on it, because there's a lot of people who, and you'll see it all the time. Like, you'll have somebody like Brett Favre, or, you'll have somebody like Mike Dicker who will come out and he'll say things opposite to what, we may believe, or something like that. And then you'll see the other side, they'll come and, come on this show and, endorse this person or whatever. So it's not that they want athletes to stay out of it completely. It's just that when you don't agree with me, then you can stay out of it. But as for me, I came into this, for me, this is something that I've been affected by my entire life. Even if I didn't have the words to express it or the platform to speak on it. I mean, like I told you, my brother lost his right to vote before he was old enough to vote. I have a brother-in-law who's 40, I think he's like 45, and he just had his voting rights restored. Like, this is the first time that he's ever been allowed to vote. And then I think you guys know my story. 6 years ago, I think, what's today's date? 6 years ago, yesterday, my cousin was killed by a law enforcement officer right in Palm Beach Gardens, right off of 95. And the only thing he did was break down on the side of the road. So for me, man, this fight is serious. It's something that hits close to home. Like I said, it's something I've been affected by, my entire life, even though I haven't had the platform or maybe even the words to speak on the matter.
So was that incident with your cousin, was that the catalyst to really get you to step out, or was that something that just added fuel to already burning fire, right, to advocate on behalf of like criminal justice reform, police accountability, and things of that nature?
Yeah, so for me, man, there were things that I was concerned about prior to my cousin being killed by law enforcement. But when that happened, man, it's just like, I didn't know what to do, but I know I had to do something. And like I said, for me, it was initially just trying to get the story out, trying to talk to, writers at different newspapers, and like at that point, nobody would actually pick the story up. But just being consistent and persistent, it actually started to gain steam, and different outlets started to pick it up, and the story became what it was. But man, so we all, and I think at that point we were all kind of tired of what had been going on. We've seen so many people being killed at the hands of law enforcement, and I was the same way. I was no different than everybody else. Tired of seeing the Tamir Rices and everybody, man. But when it hit home, it hits different. Like I can still remember we were actually, I was in San Francisco. We were playing the Baltimore Ravens. So this was a Sunday that I was looking forward to because I had been traded to San Francisco from Baltimore after the Super Bowl win. So, when you see your former team on the schedule, that's a game that you circle. So it was actually me and Torrey Smith, who had just came from Baltimore. We were looking forward to this game. And just like every other Sunday, we're getting prepared for the game. We go out, we play the game, we actually win. So we're excited. You beat your former team. And then right after the game, I have an appearance that I have to do. So there was a family that won this contest, and then they got to do a meet and greet with me after the game. So I remember, just like every other Sunday, coming out of the locker room, having my wife and my two boys greet me in the family room. And then the first thing my wife said to me, which was odd, now that I think about it, she said, "Where's your phone?" And I'm like, "It's in my backpack." She was like, "Let me get your phone." And I gave her my phone, not even thinking about it. She was like, "You have the appearance?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Go do the appearance, and I'll see you when you're done." So, I gave my wife a kiss, gave the boys a kiss, went and did the appearance. It was only like 20 minutes. So spent time with the family, came back, and then we usually go out to eat afterwards. So we go out to eat, and while we're at dinner, I can see my wife is kind of like silent. She's not talking as much. So I'm like, you okay? She was like, "Yeah, we'll talk when we get back to the house." So I'm like, okay. And, still trying to figure out what's going on. But we get back to the house. We put the boys to bed, get them, showered up, put them to bed because they have school the next morning. And me and her go in the room. She was like, "I got to tell you something." And I'm like, "What's up?" She was like, "Man, your cousin Corey was shot and killed." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Corey?" Because I had two cousins named Corey. And I'm like, "What? Which Corey?" She was like, "CJ brother." And I'm like, "Nah." And then she hands me back my phone. And then I get my phone, and like there's all these text messages that I haven't been able to check because obviously we were playing a game. So I call back home, and I'm like, "Man, what's going on?" Like, they was like, "Yeah, Corey was killed." And then they tell me the whole story. And I'm like, this is not making sense because anybody who knew Corey knew that, number one, there's no way in the world that he would come in contact with law enforcement in any kind of way. Like, Corey was the type of guy that would avoid conflict at all costs. Like, we were young, we used to wrestle, you know what I'm saying? You have your cousins or whatever. Like, he was the only one, he would talk his way out of it. Like, he wanted no parts of conflict at all. So it was puzzling to me. And then I talked to his brother, CJ, and he's giving me the story. And it broke my heart, man, because like my cousin should still be here today. Like, the only thing he did was break down on the side of the road, coming home from doing a gig, playing in the band. He was a drummer in the band, and he had just got done playing in one of his gigs. On his way home, he catches a flat tire or breaks down on the side of the road. And while he's on the phone with roadside assistance, he's actually shot by the police. So now, breaking down on the side of the road equals a death sentence. Like, for me, that doesn't make sense. So there was no way that I could sit on the sidelines and no longer use my voice for this fight.
Wow, man, that just moment sounds so fresh, man. As you're sharing,
yeah,
like to go from that high to that low, man.
And I remember that story too, and at the time, when I was reading about it, I didn't even realize that Corey was related to Anquan. But I know that really and that really touched something deep inside of you, Anquan. But the question is though, how I know as an athlete, sometimes there is a reluctance to actually be vocal. We seen like the Colin Kaepernick situation where Colin, he's taking the knee and, so he haven't been back yet in the NFL, man. Do you think that the attitudes of players have changed since then and people are being more vocal about injustice?
I think it just depends on the athlete. I think it depends on the person. And I talk to some athletes and they feel comfortable using their voice. And I talk to some athletes and, they're like, hey, man, I don't want to have nothing to do with that. I just want to play ball. And, I always used to say, like, we have that responsibility. As athletes, I think you have that responsibility. But now that I sit back and think about it, I think we all have that responsibility. Not just athletes, because I know a lot of times we put the onus on athletes. We put the pressure on athletes. Hey, you need to come out. You need to say something. Use your voice, da-da-da-da. That goes for every citizen, not just athletes. I think all of us have the responsibility of using our voice, no matter how small our voice may be or how large our microphone may be. We all have that responsibility because we're all saying we want to see change. But the change starts with us. If we're not willing to speak out about what's going on right in front of us, how can we expect things to change? If we're not willing to go out to the voting booth and vote and use our power that way, how can we expect things to change? Like, if we just sit back and just talk about things and allow things to continue to happen, how can we expect things to change? So we all have that responsibility, not just athletes, but every citizen in themselves have that responsibility to go out and use their voice.
Yeah, man, Anquan, I think about like the kind of the heartbeat of the whole movement around Amendment 4 was challenging people to share their stories, challenging people to say there is meaning and significance in the pain that you've gone through, and that, to your point, everybody has a voice and can influence somebody. And so the idea of all across the state, the real power in that movement was that people went in to go vote. They were voting for their neighbor or their loved one, somebody who had the courage to get up and say something. Man, I'm just struck by your story with Corey, and because the appeals court was still, like, you just had a ruling recently, like that had to be a roller coaster where, you're continually probably feeling like, hey, I got to say something. My heart's telling me to say something. Like, man, that's powerful.
Could you speak on that recent ruling too, Anquan?
Well, I think, when we see these things happen on TV, like we don't really understand the magnitude that it has on the families, right? Because we think, okay, and luckily for us as a family, we were able to get our day in court, right? Like, there were a lot of families who never even got a day in court. I think the officer who was convicted in Corey's case was the first officer convicted in an on-duty shooting in the state of Florida in the last 30 years. So when you, yes, the last 30 years. So when you think about all the police-involved shootings that happened in the state of Florida, he was the first officer to get convicted in the last 30 years. So while I'm in the courtroom and we're hearing this, obviously we're elated because we feel like justice is going to be served. But then my heart and my mind goes to the other families who's gone through the exact same thing that my family is going through, but never saw the justice. And then your heart breaks for those families because they deserve to have justice just as well as my family did. You know what I'm saying? Like, they deserve to have their day in court. A lot of those families didn't even get to sit before a judge or a jury. The officer was acquitted, you know what I'm saying, like, from the jump. You know what I'm saying? They said that he was well within his rights to do whatever he did. So a lot of those families never even got that kind of closure. So I know when we see it on TV, you know, we think that, hey, it's going to happen. But, man, it's a long, drawn-out process. And when I talk to, you know, different law enforcement officers that I know across the country, the one thing that they pressed upon me was, man, make sure that you guys stay involved. Make sure that you keep this story, you know, at the forefront, because a lot of times what they do is, man, they go through all these proceedings and, you know, they have all these delay tactics. And then a lot of times they're hoping that, you know, the story gets shoved to the background, you know, that the family stops showing up and, you know, and then they can eventually just do away with the case. But, you know, for my family, you know, I got to take my hat off, man. Every time there was a hearing, every time there was anything, they were out there, you know, they were front and center. And that's truly why I believe that justice was served.
Wow. Well, Anquan, man, I want to go back, right? You know, because you mentioned some good things when we was talking about, you know, the diversity of attitudes that, you know, players may have, professional athletes may have when it comes to like the social justice movement. You know, and I thought about, you know, two people. I thought about Hollywood Henderson and I thought about Charles Barkley, right? Charles Barkley, the famous, I ain't no role model, right? And then Hollywood Henderson, when he had gotten in trouble after his days with Dallas, he was on Larry King. And Larry King was like, well, how do you feel now that you've disappointed all your fans? And Hollywood Henderson said, listen, I'm not trying to make an excuse for me, but whenever a kid have to look past the dinner table to find a role model, that speaks to a bigger issue, right? And so, Anquan, my question to you is, in this wide array of positions that people can, or stances that people or professional athletes can take, where do you personally stand at right now as far as how do you see what your role is, right, in this ecosystem or in these times right now as it relates to social justice?
So you mentioned this quote by Charles Barkley where he says, you know, I'm not a role model. And the unfortunate thing about that is you're a role model whether you want to be or not. Like if you're a professional athlete, and you don't even have to be a professional athlete. If you're an uncle, if you're a father, if you're a big cousin, whatever it is that you are, somebody is looking at you. Somebody is looking up to you. Now, that is magnified as an athlete. So it's not just one person or, you know what I'm saying, a couple family members. Now you have, you know, entire schools or entire teams or entire cities, wherever it is, looking up to you. And for me, it struck. So here's when I knew I was a role model, right? I remember I was in high school and my sister had her son. And at the time, DeMario had to be about 4 or 5 years old. This is my nephew. And my nephew used to see me playing quarterback at Pahokee High School. And you know how little kids come to the gate? Like, he would come to the gate and everything I did on the football field, he would mimic along the gate. And I actually saw him a couple times doing exactly what I was doing on the field. So now, here's this little kid who's doing everything that I'm doing. It's not a question of if I want to be a role model. I am one. Because I have somebody who's looking at my life and saying, I want to be exactly like him, and I'm going to mimic everything that he does. Now, I have a responsibility. And my responsibility is to make sure that that kid knows how to do the right thing. If I want this kid to grow up and truly be the person that God has called them to be, I got to do the right things. I can't just go out and live my life any kind of way. And that's what I think some people fail to realize at times. Your life isn't just about you. The way you live your life affects more than just you. Yeah, you may think this is my life and, you know, I get to do what I want to. No, that's not true. especially if you have kids and a family, your life is no longer your own. You're not living for just you. Every decision that I make as a man affects my wife, my 2 boys, and it doesn't stop there. It actually affects my nieces, my nephews, my extended family. So I have to be careful of what I do, what I say, how I portray myself. All of those things matter when you realize how you are viewed in the eyes of other people.
Well, hey, Anquan, can I just build on that question a little bit? Because one of the things as I was listening to you talk was I thought about the NFL, right? Like this big, massive business, right? With lots of different interests and people can project onto it a whole bunch of different things. And I would feel like if it was me, I could get caught up looking the wrong way and kind of losing the real authentic kind of message that you're sharing right there. Did you have some mentors or like, what was your walk like as you kind of walk through that process to make sure that, you stayed in that space that you're talking about? And I say that as somebody who I part of my failing, I got my felony conviction was because I lost track of exactly the kind of thing that you're talking about and got focused on like the systems and other things and ended up getting selfish in the process. So I'm just curious, like, did you have some mentors or what, like, how did you kind of get disciplined to stay in that space, man?
Yeah, for me, man, I have people around me that hold me accountable. First and foremost, man, my wife. My wife holds me accountable. I know
that
uncles.
feeling.
Hey, man.
Yeah. Hey, but it's a great thing, man. Even if you don't want to hear it, man, they have a different perspective than what we do. You know what I'm saying? That's why the Bible calls our wife our helpmates. You know what I'm saying? Like they help us to be who we're supposed to be. I have my father and my mother who's always kept me grounded. The community where I come from, man, it's like I said, I'm not a celebrity when I go home. I'm Quan. You know what I'm saying? Like these are people that I grew up with. They gonna tell me when I'm right. They gonna tell me when I'm wrong. They gonna challenge me on certain things. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I want it to be. Because if people that are around me allow me to do whatever I want to do and they cheer me on, they don't really love me. It's only those people who truly love you that are gonna challenge you, that are gonna, hey man, you ain't handled that right. You know what I'm saying? Like you shouldn't have handled that person that way, or you shouldn't have said that, or you know what I'm saying? That's not how we were raised. Those are the people that I want around me. I don't want no yes men around me. Like I want people that are actually gonna look out for my best interests and make sure that I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing.
Speaking of people around you, man, let me ask you, are you building an army of social justice Avengers? I know Neil mentioned Malcolm earlier, but other than Malcolm, are there other people that's out there? I know, matter of fact, I forgot to tell you, I had reached out to Coach Van Gundy. I was going to get him to pop on and surprise you on this call, but I think he's doing a game tonight, but he definitely sends his love. Man, but are there other people that you're working with that have really seemed to get this and really want to do some work around advocacy around either racial justice or social justice, which I think is interchangeable anyhow?
Yeah, man, there's too many for me to name. I know when we originally started out, man, I think we went to DC. It was probably about 6 of us. And that number 6 grew to more than 1,200 players. And then
wait, hold on. Back up for a minute. You got 1,200 players on board with this?
Dang.
And we've expanded far beyond the NFL. Like initially it was NFL players.
Okay.
But now we're in the NFL, we're in college football, we're in MLB, we're in WNBA, we're in Major League Soccer, we're in lacrosse leagues, we're in
lacrosse.
I mean, you name it. Yeah.
Man,
like the block, we got a
you said lacrosse.
Black lacrosse.
Oh Jesus.
We got a Black Lacrosse Alliance.
Really?
So like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about in Florida? Because I'm asking that because I'm going somewhere with this because as we're coming up to the end of the show, I really want I want our folks to know if there's anything that you're doing specifically to Florida, and then what are you doing nationally, and then if there's some other players or athletes or like celebrity type folks that you work with that's engaged in this, how they're showing up.
Yeah, man, we're plugged in the state of Florida with the Miami Dolphins. We're plugged in with Jacksonville Jaguars. We're plugged in with the Tampa Bay Bucks. All three organizations have lended their help. And, for us, it's so when you talk about social justice, man, the work is so extensive. I mean, we can talk about voting rights. We can talk about prison reform. We can talk about youth justice. I mean, the list goes on and on. And one of the things right now that we're really tackling is the qualified immunity piece, holding law enforcement. Like that is huge because for as much as we talk about reform, right? And we can do a lot of work around reform, but the minute something happens and we don't hold certain parties responsible, all of that trust is gone out of the window. All of that is just talk. You know what I'm saying? And, we've all been in relationships. If we're not honest and accountable, that relationship is not going to work. Yeah. And that person is not going to trust us. You know what I'm saying? So like we can come and we can be like, oh, we need to restore trust back in the community from law. When has there ever been trust between law enforcement and the Black community? Ooh. Like I'm still trying to figure out, yes, the Black community has probably trusted several officers, different officers, but we've never trusted law enforcement as a whole. So, and the reason that is because law enforcement has never been held accountable. So that's why I feel like this qualified immunity piece is so vital, you know what I'm saying, for us to get to where we want to be. Like if you can't hold law enforcement personally accountable for the actions that they do, man, we'll never go anywhere.
Well, right. And I got to say too, like when you start talking about like, making progress on some of these things. The Supreme Court just ruled on qualified immunity, yesterday, right? And reminded us all like what a long road we got to go. It feels like we're in a Dickens novel where it's like the best of times, the worst of times, right? Like one day it's like, man, made some progress, and then you get something like that coming, and just reminded what a mountain there is to climb here.
Wait, but we got a glimmer of hope, man, because you mentioned some of the teams, man, that you work with. Let me tell you, came out today, fresh off the press. Miami Dolphins did their press release, man, and they dropped another $100K on the FRRC for the fines and fees fund, right? Another $100K.
And think about that. That's a number, but that's people, man.
Yeah,
that's
those
real
are
lives
are
going to be able to move forward, man.
And so they're going to be a lot of returning citizens in Dade County that's going to be able to register to vote without having to be forced to choose between putting food on their table or voting, right? And I got to give a huge shout out to the Miami Dolphins and their social justice impact squad, and hopefully we want to grow this. And so, man, Anquan, we might need your help, man. We got to get the Bucks on board. We got to get the Jaguars on board. I didn't like the fact that the Jaguars beat the Dolphins too. I really didn't. I didn't appreciate that.
In London, of all places.
Man, listen, when you got, we got the other teams, it's the Orlando Magic, man, they've been so supportive of the work that we've been doing, and the Miami Heat.
That's right.
Right? The Miami Heat has been supportive. And so when we get teams like that, man, we want nothing but the best from them. And so if the Jaguars want to beat the Dolphins again, man, they're going to have to go ahead and link up with our fines and fees fund to help some more folks out, man, for real.
That's right.
And then, Anquan, there is another, I can't remember his name, this brother that's in the WWE out of Tampa, right? Have you done anything with him? I know his focus has been around young people.
Yeah, we've done some youth justice work with him as well. You know, he's a University of Florida grad, so I try not to hold that against him.
Oh, Jesus.
But he's doing some great work, man. We've actually partnered up, and like I said, man, this work is extensive, and we need all hands on deck. You know, it's not just one group or one set of people that can get it done, man. We need as much help as we can because there's so many areas that we need to improve, man. So, you know, anybody that's looking to join up, no matter what area you're passionate about, and that's like even in the Players Coalition, man, we have guys that are passionate about different things. Like we have some guys who are passionate about education. You know, we have some guys who are passionate about voting reforms. We have some guys that are passionate about, you know, qualified immunity or, you know what I'm saying, juvenile lifers without the possibility of parole. Like there's a whole gamut of things that guys are passionate about. And like I said, man, we need all hands on deck.
And how can people, you know, if people want to get involved with any of your orgs that you're working with, particularly the Players Coalition, even though they may not be celebrities, I mean, are there ways that people can support the work that you all are doing?
Most definitely, man. It's not limited. It's not limited to, you know, professional athletes or anything like that, man. We're willing to work with anybody who's willing to get their hands dirty and make a difference. So,
well,
you know, you can look us up.
I played a little ball before, man. So, I mean, can I join the Players Coalition? I mean, I might not have the moves that you got, but, you know, I think I can hold my own. You know, would that qualify me to join the coalition? I know Neil can't because he don't have an athletic bone in his body.
No, man, the FRRC, man, they already a part of the coalition, man. We've been doing work since I found out about you guys, man. So, you know, that's a relationship that we're gonna continue to keep, you know, because like we talked about earlier, man, like you can't continue to punish people who have already paid their debt to society. You know what I'm saying? You can't continue to take away their civil rights, their ability to get an education, their ability to get housing, their ability to get proper, you know what I'm saying, a job. Like you can't continue to punish people in that way. And what I found out, man, I've seen, you know, formerly convicted felons, they've been some of the hardest working people that I've seen. You know what I'm saying? Because they know that their opportunities are limited, but they're trying to make a living for them and their families. They're trying to do it the right way. So, you know, that's why I jumped on board, man. I saw, you know, at the rate that people were being turned away, you know, from this committee that was supposed to vote on giving people back their rights. I mean, they turning away, what, 80, 90% of the people who come in before the board? Like, that's unheard of. Like, people have paid their debt to society, allow them, you know what I'm saying, to be able to join back into society, you know what I'm saying, and be a part of this democratic process in every way. Not limited, but in every way.
So, Anquan, before we go, man, let folks know how they can get a hold of the Players Coalition to get involved.
Yes, man. You know, we're on all the social sites, playercoalition.org. Just reach out to us, man. We're not only in Florida, but we're all over the country, and we're not just, you know, involved in one part of, you know, the social justice fight. You know, if you have a voice and you're willing to work, we can use you.
And Anquan, before
they're not in Ohio though, Neil. All right, they're not in Ohio.
We've actually done some great work in Ohio, man.
I have seen it. I have seen it. See, Desmond, come on. I will say, man, this has just been such a really informative, authentic conversation, and it's really interesting. I just want to share with you when we told folks, I'm talking to friends like, hey, man, we're talking to Anquan. The number of people who are drawn to you, in part because they're like, man, I remember when he like broke his jaw, when all of a sudden he got carted off with the injury to your leg or hip or something, right? And your ability to get back up, man. You exemplify that kind of, you know, can do, you know, get up, take that second chance, that third chance. And I just really think that, that's super appealing to people. And I appreciate how you walk this thing out, man. You got fans all over the place, even in the Buckeye State.
Hey, so check this out, right? Anquan, parting shot.
Neil,
go ahead.
So Neil, here's a fun fact for you, Neil. My senior year of high school, I was awarded Touchdown Club of Columbus, Defensive Player of the Year.
Yes. So did you go to Columbus?
But listen to that. Listen to the oxymoron in Ohio. This is what Ohio's all about. You can spell a name either way. The Touchdown Club of Defensive Player of the Year. That just don't jive. Listen, Anquan, right? Because I think about what was that wide receiver that came out of Ohio State? Give me his name real quick.
Oh, you talking about no.
What's
Malcolm
his name?
Played safety.
No, the wide receiver that came out of Ohio State back in the days.
We got a bunch of Joey Galloway.
Joey Galloway versus Micah Irvin. Who you taking?
Oh.
There you go. Wait, what's that running back that came out of Ohio State? Don't say Maurice Claret, right? Who?
You mean Zeke?
Zeke. Check this out now. Zeke or Aaron James?
Oh, you gonna go back to the buck?
I'm just trying to say, man. Listen, at the end of the day, we know that Florida puts out more bad kick butt players than the state of Ohio. All right. We do know that.
We will carry on with the trash talk.
But listen, Anquan, thank you so much, man, for joining us, man. There's so much more we could have talked about as well, but we really wanted our viewers to just know you as a person, because above all, above all of the accolades that you have gotten and will get, because I know you will get into the Hall of Fame, that there's something even more beautiful about you, and that's how you care about people and how you never forget where you come from. And I just needed our viewers to see the person beyond the player and how the person beyond the player is having an impact in our communities.
Man, I appreciate you guys having me, man. And let's continue to have these conversations, man, because that's the only way I think that people will become aware of what's going on in our country. I always say, the education piece is one of the most important pieces to this all, because like in this country, things happen because we don't know, right? Yeah. Just like in Orlando, you have 2 6-year-olds being arrested.
Yeah. Ooh.
And like, if you say that out loud, like people are like, nah, no way. But it actually happens because people don't know it's happening. So when we educate people about what's happening, then we have the ability to go out and change things. So man, you guys keep doing what you're doing. Keep educating the public, man, and keep on with the fight, man, and I'm with you guys.
Well, I got one favor to ask you, Anquan. Just to throw a little olive branch in there, man. If we can, I know ain't no guarantee, man, but can you work on seeing if we can get Malcolm Jenkins on the show so Neil will feel a little bit better?
You know what, Desmond? I don't care what Brandon and Xavier say about you. Man, you're not bad. I appreciate that.
Throw your little olive branch, man. Anquan, let's see if we can get Malcolm on here for at least 30 minutes. So Neil,
we'll do that.
All right, that'll work. All right, thank you so much once again, man.
Man, Anquan, thanks so much, man.
All right, man. Good talking to you guys.
All right, peace.
Take care.
Wow, that was great, wasn't it?
Man, that was fantastic.
Man, I tell you, man, Anquan is a beautiful soul, man.
He really is, man. He walks it out.
Yeah, I'm so glad he's a friend of FRC.
No, that's right. Man, and that story of his cousin.
Yeah, I remember reading that story over and over and over again, man, and I was like, that was scary. That was scary, and it reminded me.
You're on the side of the road, right?
But it rekindled stuff that I felt. Just really when them lights flash behind you and it's dark, how is this thing going to turn out, man? And so that was real deep, man.
Yeah, it was.
That was real deep. Yeah.
Wow. He walked us through each moment. Woo.
Yep. So, another show under the belt, Papa.
That's right. That's right. Stuff.
Where we at? We got to give out big shout out. We how many people we got? People on there. Definitely want to give a big shout out to our production, our dynamic duo.
That's right.
Zay and Brandon.
Brandon and Zay. Y'all are awesome, man. You guys are
huge
amazing.
Shout out, man. They go above and beyond to make us look good, and they actually got us something to drink today. Man, got to give them props on that, man. Got to give them big props.
It's the little things.
Well, anyway, everybody, I think this is it.
Hey, thanks, y'all.
Thank you all so much for tuning in with us. And stay tuned. Listen, y'all heard already, right? We might be having Malcolm Jenkins on here. And I'm going to try to get the GOAT, Tom Brady.
That's what's
right?
up
I'm
there.
not guaranteeing anything, but you know what? If it's going to be done, Brandon. Remember, Brandon W. we're gonna hold him accountable for getting Tom Brady on the show.
The GOAT, Brandon. That's all we're
Right.
asking. That's all we're asking.
That's all we asking, Brandon. Can you make it happen?
Come on, during the season.
All right, come on now. All right, y'all. But thank y'all so much, man. And we're looking forward to our next episode. We're gonna be bringing in some more exciting folks to really just talk about stuff. Right?
That's right.
Talk about stuff, man. Thank you all so much.
Man, I love spending Tuesday night together, man.
Yep. Peace, love, and happiness to all y'all.
See y'all.